Hey everyone, it's Aruna from Young Yoga Masters, and we're here tonight for the free webinar on what happens at the Kids Yoga Teacher Certification, Summer Certification. And let's get started. We're going to go through a little presentation I put together, and then we'll answer any questions anyone has at the end. So thank you for joining us today, and let's see what we're going to cover today. Let me move this over. So this webinar, we're going to cover a few points. They were all in the sign-up form, so you should know what they are. We're going to start with lots of pictures from the summer certification. In fact, almost all the pictures in the background of our course today are from the summer certification at Burlington, and you'll see how beautiful the art gallery is. And then we're going to get into a little bit about why it's tough to choose a training now. More than ever before, there's so much offered, and what you can do to help you understand what you're going to choose so that you choose the right training for your goals. So let's get into that first. First of all, I wanted to let you know who I am. My name is Aruna, and I've been teaching yoga since 1998 rather, and I discovered it in 1995. Did yoga for 3 years and became a full-time teacher, just slowly moving out of my old work in social work and building up my yoga classes and letting go of my social work contracts until I became a full-time teacher in 2001. I've taught all over the place in daycares, in schools, community centers, yoga studios, parks, all kinds of places. I worked at one Montessori school for 18 years, teaching kids under 5 years old, 5 classes in a row. And I've taught kids yoga, family yoga, adults tots yoga, yoga camps. I started doing teacher trainings in 2005 when I first just offered a 1-weekend training. And then when Yoga Alliance came out with the 95-hour requirement to become a registered children's yoga teacher, I registered a 95-hour school in 2012, and I've been going strong since then, and I love it. And I have both a 95-hour children's yoga school, and I also have a new program called Ambassador Yoga. This is a 200-hour Hatha yoga teacher training where we license it out to yoga teachers who are qualified to lead teacher training. They can use the Ambassador Yoga Teacher Training to offer their own 200-hour yoga teacher training. This was inspired by the idea of leading tweens and teens through yoga teacher training. Some of you have been teaching kids since they were little, and now they're in their teenage years. And why shouldn't they become yoga teachers? The same way when I was a kid, I used to be a lifeguard, and then I worked as a lifeguard as a summer job. So that's the Ambassador Yoga program, and that's part of what I do. So let's look at why is it tough to choose a training now more than ever, and what you can do to choose the right training for your goals. As we mentioned, there's so many options, and I think the biggest option is the idea of doing online training. And I want to just talk a little bit about what you can get through online training and what are the constraints of online training. We have some online training that you can download as well. It's easy, it's fast, it's affordable. There's no travel involved. You get a lot of information and activities, and sometimes you even connect with others online through a private Facebook group as well. So it's a good way to learn. And I recommend online training if you're not sure if teaching kids is what you want to do, or if you have a lot of experience working with children and you know the yoga side of teaching kids yoga, then online training could be just what you need to kind of get you started, to dip your toe in the water, see if you like it, and then from there you can build your skills after that. The constraints of online training. If you are going to eventually get your 95-hour certificate and build the industry standards to become a children's yoga teacher, then only 8 non-contact hours can count towards your Yoga Alliance certificate. That's not my rules, that's Yoga Alliance's rules. And so your training may or may not count towards your 95-hour certificate. You'd have to find out from the school. You're also not allowed to combine hours of training from different schools to get the 95-hour certificate, and you'll find out why today in this workshop. You don't get any practical experience teaching kids yoga, and what you see in videos of kids yoga classes is very different than what happens when you're with a real group of children and they start protesting and they say they don't want to do things, or they say they interrupt you, raise their hand, keep talking, no one talks. That all gets edited out of videos when you watch them online. So the practical experience is missing with the online training. And there's also no time connecting with other teachers in person, getting to observe other people teach. That happens in a live training. So in a live training, you get to see your trainers teach, and you also get to see other participants teach, who many of the participants are wonderful teachers. If they're school teachers, daycare teachers, they've got a lot of experience working with children, and they just are coming to learn the yoga part of things. So you kind of miss out on that in an online training. So then the question is, can you get a live training? The benefits of the live training are that you're learning with many different types of teaching methodology. And I'll show some examples of that later. You're getting FaceTime with trainers, you're in their presence. So any questions you have, you get to ask your questions as they're happening. You get to talk to them at lunchtime about your specific situation. You get to talk to other people in the training during non-training times, just about your situation, and you're hearing their stories too. So it's a quite different experience to do a live training, getting that FaceTime. Then you're getting the practicum. This picture is from the practicum from our summer certification. And I want to show you, we have a lot of children in the practicum, and so this gives us an opportunity to divide into different groups. So you can see 3 groups in this picture, and often we may have 3 or 4 different groups going at a time so that everyone gets a chance to teach. And then the benefits of a live training is that it may count with for your Yoga Alliance certification. The Young Yoga Masters training obviously is registered with Yoga Alliance, but your training, that if you look at other live trainings, they may not be registered. I would ask that, because if you're going to take a training, why not just take one that's registered? Then you won't have to start again at the beginning if you do want to get that Yoga Alliance certification. And I'll link to another video in the description where I talk more about that, the different levels of certification. So the constraints of the live training is, I recognize that it is definitely a commitment to travel to the place, to take time out of your schedule, and it costs more usually than an online training would cost. And you also may need to get time off work. During the summer certification, there's a lot of school teachers and yoga teachers who can just arrange their schedules to be available. But sometimes there's daycare teachers who take the 2 weeks off work. And some of them are supported by their jobs, and some people just know that this is what they want to do, and it's like their summer holiday being at the training. So it is a commitment to get the 95-hour training especially. So let's take a look at what happens in the summer certification. So you can see these are the graduates of the training. This is in the Art Gallery of Burlington, in a little lunch area, outdoor courtyard they have. And this is our last day of training. So you see all the red stickers there are the people with the getting their 95-hour certificate. And there are some people who jumped in for one module and they completed their 95 certificate later, and they get a different certificate than the 95-hour one. So you're earning your certificate, and on the last day of training, you're taking it home with you. So what's different about the 95-hour training and what's going to happen in the summer certification is that we're going to fulfill all the requirements of Yoga Alliance. And just to show you quickly, you know, these are all on the Yoga Alliance website of what they require in a training. So in the children's yoga standards, this is where I'm getting this information from, that we're not just going to cover games, we're going to cover all the different requirements that Yoga Alliance is looking for. For me, I didn't think it was necessary at first when I did the training, but now that I'm doing it, I actually appreciate this requirement that all these parts get fulfilled. So you'll see there's a general background in the kids yoga specialty, and that's a study and understanding of all childhood development stages from ages 2 to 15. So that's what we cover in the training, is ages 2 to 15, and how the issues of each stage impact what is appropriate for teaching them. So when we're going through the training, and you'll see when we talk about the modules, we'll talk about what ages you're going to teach these games, particular games to, which ones work for everyone and not for, or what not for certain ages. And we apply all the other backgrounds into how it applies to children. Oh, there's one little part here where it says also includes the understanding of the yoga teacher's relationship with parents, guardians, and developmental specialists, basic communication skills for conducting those relationships. That's something we cover in the level 2 mastermind module, where you're going to get actual sample letters that you can send out to parents, sample invoices, and we do a little intake in the inclusive yoga, where we talk about when we're working with specialists. So all of that is covered, and it's just impossible to cover in one weekend of training, because we're also going into 20 hours of the 95-hour training is what's called techniques training and practice. So here we are doing some techniques training and practice. This is the art gallery, the room where the training takes place. And there's about 20 people in this module. Not all modules have 20 people. That's usually about the max, where we start to max it out. This is where you're practicing, includes yoga-based practices appropriate for child development, such as asana, asana-based movement, yoga-based games and activities, breathing techniques, and chanting. So this is where we learn the games, and then you're going to repeat what we've learned in the practicum. And I would look for, if I was taking a training, I would ask, like, are there children? So sometimes people will say that it's a 95-hour training, but they don't actually have children in the class, and you're just practicing on other adults. You're not really getting the Yoga Alliance requirements if that is happening. So it's good to know that should be time for you to learn the games, but then there should also be time where you're teaching what you've learned to children. So there's 20 hours for that, of learning games and chanting and breathing and all kinds of fun. We do that in every module of the training. Then we're doing anatomy and physiology for 10 hours. And this picture I put in because I wanted to show you one of the differences of the live training. So often in a online training, you're reading or you're having someone talk to you in a video. In a live training, this is a little game, for example, where we're learning about anatomy and physiology and child development through the ages. So it's kind of a game like based on that game Headbands, where you see people have a number on their forehead and they don't know what number they have. They've got to try to figure out what age they are by asking certain questions, and they get to reinforce what they've learned through a game like this. So this really works well with the idea of teaching methodology. People like to learn in more than one way, and that's what you can get in a live training, is you're learning in more than one way. You're not just being lectured at, and you're not just reading from a manual. You're playing games to help you learn as well. And so we're covering the anatomy and physiology, specifically changes during child development, their application to yoga, includes both the study of the subject and application of its principles to yoga practice. So benefits, contraindications, healthy movements, movement patterns, etc., where it specifically applies to children. And then it can also include human physical anatomy and physiology. So we look at, spend a lot of time looking at stress and what happens to children when they're under stress and or under trauma, how the body responds and the body systems, especially the endocrine system, and then how you can bring your body back to a state of homeostasis. What's recommended during stress and not during stress, that's really covered in the inclusive yoga module. And we also look at energy anatomy, and we have a whole module for our course about the chakras. So that's also fun to look at the yoga philosophy. Okay, let's keep going. Then we get into yoga philosophy, lifestyle, and ethics. This includes like ethics of working with children, things like ethical touch. And you'll see, I put this picture in because you see how we don't recommend too much touch with the older children, depending on the environment. We'll cover all of that in the training. But there are ways you can play games with the kids, like with a ball, where you're both touching the ball and you're still having so much fun, and there's a lot of contact and working closely with the children. And you know, that's just the reality of working with children, is that in schools they'll have a no contact policy, and you'll learn about how to handle that. And so all of that, we get into lifestyle and ethics and yoga philosophy when we cover the themes and dreams module. We get into yoga philosophy using folk tales with children that teach lessons about how we can change our thinking and about stress and recognizing your true self. It's very powerful stories to cover with kids. And then finally, we get into this idea of teaching methodology. And the teaching methodology, again, is about learning how to plan lessons. We have a kids yoga class creator that we will use. It's showing how to talk to children to get their attention, how to ask questions, how children can process, and different ways of learning. So sometimes you might be teaching something by talking, and sometimes we might do a little craft. Like, again, another way of learning is using Play-Doh to talk about the different stages of development. So we don't just look at a topic once, we try to reinforce it through each module so that you're really remembering it. We know that people don't learn by hearing something one time. Same with children in a class. You need to hear it over and over, and that's what yoga practice is all about too. You don't just do a pose once, you do it over and over as a practice. And that's what happens in the teaching methodology. So we're covering classroom techniques, lesson planning, processing, children's activities, age-appropriate teaching skills for teaching children. And that part is a lot of fun as well. And that's 15 hours of the 95-hour training. That's a Yoga Alliance requirement. And how do we fulfill all these requirements? Well, let's take a look at the different modules of training. So in the yoga literacy, where you get your yoga alphabet cards, you get a book, you get a poster, a French and English poster, you get a PDF so you can print these out and the children can color them. And then we look at how you use the alphabet for the different ages. So the way we describe it is not only based on physical age, because sometimes we know through physical literacy, children don't learn by what age they are. They learn because of how much experience they've had. And so if some children have read a lot, they may be reading at 3 or 4 years old. And some children may not be reading until later, like 6, 7, 8. Sometimes kids don't pick up that much reading till. So we describe games based on children's ability to read and how you can connect with children based on their experience, not just their age. In the inclusive yoga module, this is Yoga Man doing the sun salutation here. we look at stress reduction. So what we found is that there's a high comorbidity between stress and a diagnosis of a special need. And so we can't obviously make people take whole college, university degrees to learn about working with children with special needs. But what we're going to look at is how yoga can help reduce all children's stress, and how we go about that using Yoga Man and the Sun Salutation. So that's a very powerful, there's a bit of anatomy and stress reduction in that one. And then in the Mindfulness for Children module, we again use mindful movement, we use the meditations for growing minds, and we use tools like the Balancing Eagle. And all of these are included in your module. And there we're learning techniques training, we're learning anatomy, and we're learning yoga philosophy. And we cover all of that in this module. And we have the chakras for children, where we get into the yogic anatomy, the kids yoga and mindfulness. You can see here's the story of the lion cub who was raised by goats. And we get into yoga philosophy in a very playful manner. Like, kids love story time. You can see how interested all the children are here. And then in the family yoga class, we get into how to teach not just children, but families as well. And then the Themes and Dreams module, where you get a breathing ball. We really look at lesson planning. So that's a lot of techniques training and teaching methodology. We get into how to teach teen yoga and how to make your own lesson plan. And we give you lots of examples of lesson plans. Like, this is one example from the manual of another story called The Wish Fulfilling Tree. Every thought is like a wish, and we are sitting under the wish fulfilling tree. So let's move on now to the experience you'll get from the summer certification. What happens is that you will be part of teaching over 50 children at the summer certification, aged 4 to 13 plus. And so where you saw that where your learning activities in the class, I put these pictures into, these are from past summer certifications, where now you're teaching children and you're teaching all the different activities. And here someone's observing another teacher teach, and each person is getting an opportunity to teach and to observe. And it's amazing how observing a class, how much you see. Sometimes you see things that the teacher doesn't see because they're focused on what they're teaching. And this training has 18 hours of practicum. And they're divided between hours spent watching your trainers and your lead trainer and trainers teaching. And you'll be also watching other participants teach, and you'll be teaching. So every module, you'll be teaching classes. And here's what we've got planned for the summer certification. Every day, typically, we will be teaching from 2 to 2:45, 12 children from the age 4 to 6 years, and 12 children ages 13 plus years. And you'll spend about 15 minutes observing the trainers teach, and then you'll be 30 minutes where you'll be teaching, observing, or assisting. And then we have a little 15-minute part to change over between classes, and that's really, sounds like very simple, but it's actually very important to learn how to get your class to leave so that you can start your next class on time. So that's going to be a very important part of it, especially if you plan to go to schools or daycares. And then from 3 till 3:45, we'll have 36 children ages 6 to 12 years old. And again, you'll see the lead trainers teach, and you'll also be teaching for 30 minutes. So every day of the training, we're teaching the children who are taking the camps at the Art Gallery of Burlington. So we're part of the wrap-up for each day for the camps. They'll be finishing their classes with yoga. Most people say that is their favorite part of the training. And let's see if I can get this video to play. I made a little video yesterday where I went out to the Art Gallery of Burlington. And let me find it for you. Here we go, 2019. And my little movie is right here. Somehow it got closed. So here I am at the art gallery, and there's a big parking lot in the back so that if you're driving, you don't have to worry about parking. And our parking rate is a special rate of $5 a day. And here's the room that we'll be training in. It's very big. There's lots of room for both tables and for yoga. So they will bring in the tables we request. Right across the street is the boardwalk or the waterfront of Burlington. And there's a nice spot for jogging. We had a few joggers last year who before the course would go out for a nice jog. And then there's this beautiful restaurant called Spencer's. It's a little fancy. There's some less fancy restaurants around, but it's a special treat. And then we cross the street and we'll come in either through the front door or the back door, come into the Art Gallery of Burlington. And I didn't really have permission to film the people inside. So you'll see there is a little coffee area inside where you can get coffee. You can make a fresh coffee or a tea. And there's a little seating area as well. And then right beside the art gallery is the Sunshine Donut Shop. I cannot be responsible for you. Let's see how many donuts you eat at the Sunshine Donut Shop, but let's just say you probably wouldn't be the first one if you got a donut there. And it's a lot of fun. It's a beautiful area. There's nice place for breaks. There's nice place for strolls in the evening to just decompress. And one thing I recommend that if you are taking the training, to try not to plan too many other things, because you're learning all day, and it's a little bit physically challenging, but it's also mentally requires a lot of focus. So if you've ever done an intensive before, you know that you're really focused during the day, and at night it's really nice to just do nothing, to not have to work, to not if see your family or whatever, or if you're going back to the hotel, to just take it easy and decompress. When I'm teaching in the training, I'm usually in bed by 9 or 9:30, and I'm up early in the morning and doing a little of my own yoga before the course starts at 9 a.m. But it's just you'll find that it's very absorbing, especially when you're teaching the kids. It really takes your energy to stay focused for that long during the day. So try to make your schedule as clear as possible when the summer certification is on, and that way you'll get the most out of the training. So how will you be able to use your training at the summer certification to put yourself out there as a kids yoga teacher after the training is over? So this is something we cover in the Level 2 Mastermind module. In this module, we cover what to charge. We go give you sample invoices, sample letters to schools and parents, how to advertise. There's sample class posters, online resources that you can use to build your classes. And we also go into how to plan the curriculum. So on the last module, you'll be learning everything you've learned in the other 5 modules. Now you'll be creating your own curriculum and lesson plans as if you were teaching the kids classes on your own. And then we'll be planning the whole class based on your lesson plans throughout the training, but especially the last module. And then we also go into what can your action plan be for after the course is over. So what will your next steps be after you graduate? And this is a big part of putting yourself out there, and we've been in the training and you've got these connections, and it's really nice how everyone gets to know each other. And then little groups will often form, and people will start to work together as well, doing summer camps or creating businesses together. So that is a great opportunity as well. And we have some trainers that are coming that I wanted to share. So not just myself as the trainer, but 6 other days of the training, we have different trainers coming in. So one is Marcia LeBlanc. She's a 200-hour yoga teacher in both Modo yoga, and she's also got her 200-hour training in Kundalini yoga. She was a graduate of our training in 2014, and she's been, since then, she's taught everything in all the modules. I think it took her like 2.5 years to get through everything, she said. And she is a full-time yoga teacher, which is why I've invited her to come to the training and talk to you. She's been using it in daycares, and she's been building her yoga business, her kids' yoga business. This year, she's running summer camps in 2019. And she's also a mom, so she's got a family life at home as well, so she'll be able to relate to the parents. And then our next trainer is Yasuko Tanaka, and she is a specialist in working with children on the autism spectrum. Her business is called Zenshin Kids, and I love when we talk about niching. You'll see her niche is working with children on the autism spectrum in the Japanese community. And she is wonderful. And she's also a graduate of our training. She graduated in 2017, but she's been working with children on the autism spectrum for over 20 years. So she brings a wealth of information, and she will come in and she'll be leading a talk with us during the inclusive yoga module. And then finally, our third guest trainer during the training is Claire Matthews. And Claire has run a yoga studio in Grimsby for a number of years. She graduated from the Young Yoga Masters training in 2012, our very first time we offered the 95-hour training. And Claire and I met then, and we also became friends, and now we were business partners, and we run the Ambassador Yoga training together. And so she's the lead trainer in her 200-hour teacher training at her studio. And she has a very successful kids and tween yoga program at her studio. In fact, it's one of the better income earners in the teacher training, after the teacher training rather. And she will talk to you, especially for people who are thinking of opening a studio. She will have some good advice for you in the Mastermind Level 2 training. And she has 2 daughters as well, so she's got her hands full at home, and her daughters are wonderful. So all the kids are wonderful. Someone asked about what are the options and the prices for the summer certification. And so we're going to go through that right now just by looking at where you find this on the website. Because the prices do change when the early registration ends. So you will go to the youngyogamasters.com website, and under dates and registration, you'll see the summer certification. And this is the page that we're on right now. And it will give you the information about the training. There'll be some videos from the training, the location, some great testimonials from other graduates of the training. It shows our hours, and then how to register. So you can register right online using the buttons, and you will complete a form that will give me the background information I need about each participant, so I know who's coming to the training. And then these are the rates that are happening right now, the early registration rate, which ends by June 30th. So for the full registration, it works out to $2,100 Canadian dollars plus tax. So in Canada, tax is 13%. And that works out to $350 plus tax per module. And I was thinking that I'm happy to say that that is the same price as what we offered the training for in 2012. And this price, the early registration, hasn't changed since 2012. And our prices are geared towards encouraging people to take the full 95-hour certification. So when you talk about having a niche, and you'll probably have a niche in your business, you'll see like who are the people who you really want to work with. And for us, it's really people who want to get the Yoga Alliance level of training so that we can cover all the topics we need to cover and not be trying to crunch everything into one weekend, which I did for a number of years, and before the Yoga Alliance came out with the 95-hour, and it's very difficult. So what we can do is you can put down a $500 deposit to hold your spot now, and then your balance is due on the first day of the training, and you can pay for that by e-transfer or by credit card. And we had an installment plan going, and if someone needs an installment plan, we can arrange a custom installment plan for you. Usually we prefer to have people to pay for the full training by the time it ends, but we have made a few exceptions, and that's what we can offer to people. We don't offer scholarships, but we do offer payment plans. So if you want a payment plan, please contact me at aruna@youngyogamasters.com and talk about what you think would work for you. Sometimes though, if people don't have the money to afford it, they will take 3 modules one summer and then come back and take 3 modules the next summer. And you can start teaching after those 3 modules. In fact, you can start teaching after 1 module. So the 3 modules one summer will give you a better price than 1 module at a time. So it works out to $365 per module. And it gives you so much information to start teaching with. You'll still get lots of practicum. But when you come back the next year too, sometimes people like that because then they can talk about what they've been doing and get more feedback on their situation. So that's an option that many people have done. And then you can also register for just 1 module of the training. And that is the option. And the pricing, though, as I mentioned, is geared towards trying to encourage people to take the full training. And then the rates go up slightly after June 30th. The main reason for that is that I have to start printing manuals. And I update the manuals every class. Every time I offer them, I'm pretty much updating them with new information, or if there's like a new resource, I'll put that in there. So I try to print the exact number of manuals I need for each training. And again, if you have questions about that, then give me a call or an email and we can discuss that. So I want to talk to you about who the summer certification is recommended for and who it's not recommended for. And this is part of having your niche. You may find that you want to teach certain kids and not certain kids, or you like certain environments and not other environments. So this is for the Young Yoga Masters training. It's very cool because I'm looking around at all these people who I know from last year, and they're beautiful, amazing people, and they really do cross the spectrum of what their work is. So in this group, there are parents who are taking the course for their own children. And that is common, that a lot of parents start off taking the course for their children. And then once they go through the training, they start to think, maybe I can teach it outside of my own children. So it's amazing to see the confidence build throughout the training. In this group here, there's school teachers, there's ECEs, there's yoga teachers, of all levels of yoga teachers. There's specialists who are social workers or psychologists who are working with children and want to bring in yoga. There's even a school principal here. And there's lots of people who come who are in totally unrelated fields. Like I've had people in banking and insurance, house cleaners, all kinds of people who are working in another field, and they don't want to do it anymore, and they're looking for a new career with more meaning, doing something they believe in. And so that's people who come to the course. Sometimes they may not have experience, but they love yoga and they believe in it, and that's what they want. But who the course is not recommended for So if you don't really have a passion for yoga and meditation or mindfulness or some kind of mind-body awareness practice, this program isn't for you. So sometimes someone will call and they'll be like, I want to take the teacher training. And I'll ask them, do you have any yoga experience? And like, they haven't even done any yoga classes before. I think you should go out and do yoga for a year and make sure this is really what you want, because you need to use yoga to teach yoga, and yoga changes you so much. And it's just been a gift in my life. And everyone you see in this picture is because yoga has touched their lives and made it better. So they have a passion for yoga. Who it's not recommended for as well is those who don't have time to build a business. So we know it generally takes 2 years to make a business start working. And that's about how much time it took me to make that shift from my other work. If you are like, I'm quitting my job tomorrow and I want to become a yoga teacher, it's probably not going to happen that fast. We certainly have people who have started teaching right away and started making money right away, by all means. But I think to build a full-time business is going to take time. So if you don't have that time, or if you need something, a new job right away, I would just say that it's going to take you a little time to build up your yoga business. And then this last point, those who don't like hanging out with children. A lot of the people you see in the picture and in the course are the ones where when you go to a family event or you go to some kind of festival or party, a lot of these people are the ones who are playing with the kids or checking in with the kids, and who really enjoy kids' energy. And a lot of them are kids at heart. They're very playful, fun people, and they're not about rules and regulations. They're about spirit, which is what kids are like too. So those are the type of people who really seem to do well in the training. If you want to bring out your inner child, if you see the value of it, then I think this is the course for you that will help you do that. And then here's our schedule for the summer certification. And you can take any one of the 6 modules. The first 5 here can be taken in any order. And the only one that you need prerequisites for is the level 2. You have to have taken at least 2 trainings. So if you take this week, you're fine in the level 2. Or any other 2 modules, you can take the level 2 as well. You're welcome to jump in. If you were only going to take 1 module, I think I would recommend the yoga literacy module, because we put that first because you get a lot of resources in that module. You get the yoga cards, the book, the posters, and you can use that for a long time with the activities. The second ones, they're all good. Every time I start one, I'm like, I love this module. So they're all good. The themes and dreams helps you with lesson plans and a lot of songs and games and how to plan your own lessons. So that's often a first one that people take. And same with the mindful. Well, really, they're all good. So you can jump in at any one. But if you were going to just take one and it didn't matter which schedule, I would take the yoga literacy, or I would take the first week first if you can. And you will be able to register online. So what happens at the summer certification, just to go over it, is you're going to connect and collaborate with real people and make new friendships and meet others who are starting out just like you. The bond is amazing that happens at the summer certification. You're going to get confidence teaching and planning classes from start to finish, and you're going to teach children, a lot of children, 60 children. So by the end of it, you won't be wondering, can I do it? You'll know you can do it because you'll have done it. And that makes a huge difference versus you know, I've heard people say, like, I have my children's yoga teacher certificate, but I've never actually taught a child before. That won't happen to you. You'll know exactly what to do. And then finally, this I'm taking from a graduate who just graduated in our last module. And when she gave her final feedback to the group, she said that the course had been life-changing for her. And the part that changed her life was seeing how the kids were impacted by doing yoga and meditation. And it gave her purpose, and she knew she was doing important work going out with her certification. And actually she was graduating, and she had already started teaching before she graduated. And you know, this course is life-changing in many ways, but one of the biggest, I think, is seeing the impact it has on children. And you're going to walk away with your certificate at the end, whether it's for one module or for your 95-hour certificate. You will have that piece of paper to put on your resume, and you'll have that experience teaching at the Art Gallery of Burlington camp to put on your resume. And that will really boost up how you feel when you go out and are starting to build your classes. So thank you to everyone who is here today. We're going to send you the replay of this webinar, and want to remind you once again that early registration ends June 30th for the Summer Certification 2019. Please come out. If you have any questions, send them my way. I would love to see you there. And I think it really has been a really powerful summer to remember for so many people. So my name is Aruna. Once again, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.